Hey, Dusty Wegman here. We're in Woodland Hills, California with Neil Citron at the Doghouse Studio. Hi, Neil.
He does.
We thought we'd come over and hang out and talk about what you're up to and how you use your Mojave microphones.
Cool. I'm glad.
So what are you working on today?
So Larry DiMarzio asked me to demonstrate his new acoustic guitar system. And I wrote a piece, and Roger Carter, who owns the studio, the Doghouse, is a great drummer. And he was nice enough to play drums on this for me. And I'm using the 201 FETs up there for overheads, and they are just ridiculously good. I couldn't believe that something that's dark and warm, the bell ride, is so clear. It's like I've got a ride mic, and it's like I've got a little small, condenser on it. It's so clear. Yet the picture is so big, and you can see I don't even have them that wide. And it's just ridiculously great. And then for those of you that don't know, Dusty was nice enough to loan me a 101.
That's our new mic, the new 101 FET.
Yeah. And I put it on the snare drum beside a 57, and it's the sound. It's just the sound. It's crazy good, crazy good.
What did it do for you?
Well, normally, I'm one of those guys, I like the smack top of a snare drum, and I don't like the bottom rattle, but you need that sound in there. And I know a lot of guys have been using condenser or some kind of condenser on the top, but I always find it to be just too bright. But the 101 is just bright enough. And actually, I could have just used it instead of the 57. I would have been just as happy, really. But in my mind, I already had sort of, I was going to do the combo thing, so there was no turning back.
Well, it's the old standby. You know what you're going to get.
Right. But instead of it smacking my head off, it's sort of like when guys use transient designers. It's got that puff to it.
Right.
And that's what the 101 did. So no transient designer, no extra piece of gear, no nothing, no EQ. I just slammed it in and done. It's great. It's great.
So when you get to mix, it's just more of a balancing the two channels as opposed to grabbing the EQ like you normally would.
And sometimes what's fun is if I do have two mics, I'll do that and put it around instead of straight up, so that
like 11 and 1.
Yeah.
Like
so you
not
get
too radical.
So you kind of get this wider but same kind of blend thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you use overhead mics on a drum kit, are you looking mainly to isolate the cymbals, or are you looking for like a balanced picture of the kit?
Yeah, a balanced picture of the kit. I really try and get hopefully what the drummer's hearing.
Right.
And so often I will sit behind the drummer and have him play a little bit, and once I kind of get what he is hearing, then I start moving the overheads till it sort of sounds similar. And I'm back, sort of even with his body, because I like sort of an off-axis cymbal crash. I don't like right on the cymbal, it takes my head off. And then the 101 on the hat, again, it was just that kind of thing where the harder I pushed it, the closer I got to the hat, it got clearer but smoother. It was almost like a built-in compressor. It was very nice, really nice. Yeah,
and so you're micing the hat from underneath these days?
Yeah, unfortunately today I had to do the top because he had this weird stand-up. But I started miking hi-hats from underneath. It's an old Beatles thing that they did years ago. And mostly it's to get the top of the snare out of it.
Right.
And so you get this sort of off-axis snare drum sound that's really sweet in the hat. And there's actually more articulation underneath because you don't have any of that kind of a sizzle on top from it sort of rattling. And it's weird. It's almost like tapping your fingers on a table. It's that clear. It's almost,
very interesting.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Well, the deal is with these mics, we use really big Jensen transformers and really high-grade components in it. So you're getting a really fast transient response. So it lets more of that attack through more the natural sound that you don't have to start either filtering out the harshness with EQ or trying to make up for it being too dark. Now, you called me the other day and used a MA200 on a vocal session.
I did. I cut John Waite from the Babies.
Yeah, from the Babies.
And he did.
Singers.
Oh my gosh.
Still sounding good?
Unbelievable. I hate him. He's so good.
Yeah.
It's like, the funny thing is that he hadn't seen the 200 before, and I put it in front of him and he asked me what it was. And I said, well, just think of it as the all-time world's best male vocal mic. He sang a song for Roger's solo record, and he liked the way it came out so much, he's going to put it on his own record.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's called the 515, and it's really great. And he liked it so much, he's going to come in and do a couple more tracks, and of course I'll have him sing on that microphone as well.
So, I know you've been so busy. I was looking at your discography today, and there's so much stuff on there. As an engineer, I know you best for working with Steve Vai.
Steve Vai, I started about 12 years ago.
And you actually started with him as his Taekwondo instructor, right?
Yes, yeah, I was teaching him and his wife Pia.
Right.
They were training with one of my students in Lake Tahoe. That's when Steve was in Whitesnake, and everybody bought houses in Nevada.
Right.
And they came back to LA and they asked my student, well, where should we train? I said, well, call Neil. So I was still teaching part-time then. I was engineering, producing, and teaching martial arts to keep the roof over my head.
Right.
And so I started working for Steve, and one day Steve said to me, do you know anything about digital recording? I said, well, I know a lot, I think, so what do you need? So I built him a portable recording rig, and I went out and did 40 shows with him, and every day we were backing up to tape backup, and it was crazy, crazy. But ever since then I went to London with Steve and recorded his live at Astoria, and then he asked me if I wanted to run the Mothership, which is his studio.
It's in Hollywood.
In Hollywood, so I physically ran it for about 10 years.
Right.
We had people that would rent the house and stay there and record, that kind of thing. So,
tell us some of the people you worked with.
I work with Steve Lukather, Larry Carlton. The big fun thing
you won a Grammy for that one, right?
That I won a
was
Grammy.
What
they did a live recording in Japan, and Greg Bissonette played drums.
Right.
But one of the fun things we did there is Steve had signed the Yardbirds to do a record, and they had all these guitar players come in and play. So I got to record Slash, and of course Lukather again, and Skunk Baxter. And Brian May played on it, and Joe Satriani, and Steve Vai. So it was really a fun project, having all these guys come through. And everybody, you walk in and they have their roadies with these huge rigs.
Right.
It's like every day, okay, where do we start?
Right.
It was a lot of fun. For those of you that don't know, I had a summer job at West LA Music, and Dusty was my boss.
That's right, back in the late 70s.
That's where I met him.
That's back when you were playing with Hero.
Hero, yeah, which was, we were on Mercury. And we were waiting when the record was done, and we were waiting to tour and get support, and we were all starving, so I went and got the job. Good old Don Griffith. So,
hi, Don, if you're out there.
Hey, Don.
Hi, Dan.
So that's how long I've known Dusty. And in fact, Dusty taught me a lot about engineering. If those of you who, I don't know if you have your head in the sand and don't know what a great engineer Dusty is, he's just fabulous.
Thank
and
you.
So he taught me so much about just miking drums. He's the dude.
Well, and what about your solo career? We haven't even talked about your guitar playing.
Well, it's taken a backseat to my engineering lately.
Right.
So,
yeah, I don't know how that happens.
Oh, man.
But you've got, what, 2 solo albums out?
I have 3 solo albums out. 1 on a Japanese label and 2 on Favored Nations.
Right, which is Steve Vai's label.
Steve Vai's label. And I played with this girl, Lana Lane. I think I've done about 14 records with her, and she was very big in Europe and Asia. And I did touring with her. But after my band Hero didn't make it, it's your fallback career, which was martial arts at the time. But I had always engineered. I had a in-house production deal at Cherokee, and George Tutko was working with Roy Thomas Baker, and they were doing the Cars' first record. And George's assistant didn't show up, and so they let me set up microphones. And so that's sort of when it started for me.
Right.
And the bug is to hear something in a room, put this little thing in front of it, and go back in the other room and go, oh my gosh, it's like better than what I heard in the room.
Right.
That's still exciting for me.
Yeah.
I haven't lost that.
Yeah.
It's, the fun of being in the business at this time is that you get to record all sorts of different things, and all of it is so great. All of it brings something to the table. Recording a rap guy, and he says, I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to do my ad-libs and all that. You start trying to relate it to guitar, and then guitar overdub, and then the doubling, and
Right.
It's really the same. And they're so fast at it, it's crazy. When they're good at something, it's breathtaking, it's crazy. So I've had a lot of fun with that.